All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick will be doing our 2023 preview and prediction for the Florida State Seminoles. With his coaching staff, Mike Norvell, 18-16 record, posted through his first 3 years. Alex Adkins, second year of the position as offensive coordinator, his fourth year with the Noles. Then Adam Fuller, he's been with Mike Norvell ever since 2019. Also, Mike Norvell, this is a guy who lives by work ethic, discipline, outstanding character. This is a football team that returns 18 starters with some realistic CFP expectations, potentially some shades of 2013. Looking at this offense, it's going to be a big year for the Noles. At least that is going to be expectation in the house after posting 36 points per game and ranking top 10 in total yards per contest. Jordan Travis, this is a player who arrived from Louisville just a couple of years ago, and he's now second in the preseason Heisman odds. This is a player who's an elite improviser. He's developed some good pocket awareness. He's a true dual threat, good runner with speed with a thinner frame. Weaves through tacklers at 6'1", 212. Makes good poised plays under pressure, even when evading. He was a good decision maker all of 2022. His interception numbers certainly reflect that. Inconsistent accuracy and mechanics, I think, are kind of his biggest flaws that are starting to be worked on this year. Jordan Travis, Nick, Heisman is going to be one of the expectations. Do you think he lands on the podium?
I certainly think it's possible. He's a very talented quarterback. We saw that last year. Kind of stepped into that starting role. People had question marks what he could do. I think he showed that he's an absolute star in the game. 3,200 yards passing last year, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Fantastic numbers, and he's got that leg ability as well. 7 scores on the ground last year for Jordan Travis. I think he's certainly got to be in the contention for the Heisman. I think he's got to be one of the top 3 favorites right now in college football. Such a talented quarterback with a great skill set and a great, kind of a whole repertoire of skills he can use. Great balance on the ground and through the air.
Now, looking at some of his weapons, this receiving core is going to have some high expectations in their own right. Johnny Wilson, this is another guy who transferred from Arizona State, 6'7", 235. That is incredibly unique size. He utilizes every bit of his frame on contested catches. Obviously great with his high point. Has the speed to win vertically. He plants his foot and gets inside on slants. This is a very impressive playmaker who's probably going to rise into the first or second round in draft boards. Winston Wright, this is a player that not people are going to talk about, but he missed all of last year, and that's why, transferring from West Virginia University. This is a player slot weapon, mainly used underneath. He's shifty, and he can also win one-on-one when climbing to the second level. Hakeem Williams, he's a true freshman 5-star. This is a freak athlete, coordinated athlete with some good build, great with his feet, impressive yard after catch, some good catch radius also. And they're going to pair that up with Keon Coleman, a player who just arrived from Michigan State, athletic playmaker with leaping ability, was highly productive for them a season ago. And it gets even better, Nick, because they lost 8 players in the portal, including Treshaun Ward. They lost 3 receivers, but they added 7 guys overall, 3 of those on the offensive line, and 2 tight ends, and Jaheim Bell, versatile weapon that was not used much as a pass catcher this past year, only 25 receptions. And instead, he was used more so in, running back role with an explosive skill set. He has a great blend of size, speed, physicality, very competitive player at 6'3", 232. Kyle Morlock as well. He's more of a traditional tight end compared to Bell, but a good frame of 6'7", 245. Likely to be used as a pass catcher down the seam to replace Caden McDonald, who departs. Overall, this is a really good offense. Some great weapons for Jordan Travis. A lot of moving pieces here. But overall, I think the Noles, Norvell, what he's been able to do, this is going to be very tough for opposing offenses. It's just a great collection of weapons here.
There's so much talent here. I love Trey Benson, fantastic running back. His name, Treshaun Ward, transferred out. I thought he was really talented back then, potential. But I like Trey Benson a lot. Nearly 1,000 yards rushing last year, 9 scores for him on the ground. Johnny Wilson's a very talented wide receiver, great weapon to have. Nearly 900 yards receiving, 5 scores for him, 20.9 yards per catch for him as well. Super talented returning pieces. They went out to the portal and grabbed pieces they needed to. They made some work on the offensive line. They also added some serious talent at tight end. I think Bell and Murlock are very talented pieces. They both do opposite things from each other, so I think they complement each other well. They have that kind of unique skill set where they can both kind of do different roles in the offense. I think Murlock, like you said, is more traditional tight end, but Bell's is definitely a weapon who's got some serious skills, kind of similar to another tight end in college football at Georgia that has a similar kind of unique skill set. There is some talent here with this tight end. I think Hakeem Williams is another solid player as well. Winston Wright, missed last year, but I think he's got some serious potential. We saw that at West Virginia in small bursts, so I think this is a very talented offense, and the O-line unit's very talented as well.
Look at running back Trey Benson, a physical runner that runs upright with his pads high. He arrived from Oregon. Great ball security, thrives on yards after contact, some really good speed. He really ran Treshaun Ward out, who still could have been a very good running back for this football team, could have been a good asset. He decided to go to Kansas State, though. Benson, he overtook that number one position. He's not going to look back. The offensive line, they struggled to pass block this past year, and obviously for a long time, even in the Jimbo days, the offensive line was, a unit that was pretty critical. They went out and added some pass blocking help, though. Casey Roderick from Colorado, 6'4", 305. Only 6 pressures and 1 sack allowed this past season. The only bright spot for the Buffaloes. Keandre Jones from Auburn, 6'4", 340. He was inconsistent, but when he was on point, he was great at pass blocking. Bless Harris, he comes back from injury. Robert Scott, he's one returning starter along with Maurice Smith at center, who's much better down the stretch. Darius Washington may play guard. Dimitri Emmanuel played 800-plus snaps. So they have plenty of options here on the interior. The biggest addition on the offensive front is Jeremiah Byers. Good depth on dropbacks. Speed rushers may speed up his process a bit, but he may kick inside the guard. He's a strong run and pass blocker, hard worker, 6'4", 331. When we talk about this offense, Nick, about 80 or 90% of the players we just named, these guys are all transfers. That is the complete makeup of this football team, and it's paid big dividends for them, and I think it's going to continue to. Mike Norvell is a clear, attitude here in trying to revamp this offense. I think it's going to pay off wonders for them in 2023.
I agree. I think they hit the portal hard. They build a lot of talent here. I think Byers is a fantastic piece at right tackle. Good experience. Good leader coming over. I really like what he can do. Darius Washington at left guard. I like his side. I think he's a solid piece. Casey Roderick as well is not a bad piece to grab out of the portal. They certainly made the moves they had to get. They got some good pieces here. I think this is a solid offensive line. Wasn't great in pass blocking last year. I think that's the one thing they got to improve on. But overall, I think this is a good offensive line. This is a great offensive unit.
Yeah, I think the depth at running back is pretty sound. Rodney Hill, Lawrence Defy is still there, wide receiver. Maybe he'll be tested a little bit, but I think they have a great starting three. Katron Portier and Ja'Kai Douglas, these guys are coming back. And, of course, the implementation of that 5-star Hakeem Williams. This is a great offense top to bottom. I'm going to give it an A. The pass protection needs to prove a little bit more before I can give them the boost to an A+. I think once they start to figure that out, though, this is going to be a deadly offense. What's the grading for you, and what are your expectations for this year? Because obviously it's going to be pretty big.
I think, an A is certainly where this team is right now. I think this is a fantastic offense that has so much potential, a lot of talent, top to bottom. Made the right moves in the offseason. They grabbed the right guys out of the portal. They really put together what is a really talented offense. A lot of good moving pieces here. I think the quarterback play is fantastic. I think the running back play will be also fantastic as well. As long as the offensive line can find itself in a good position and protect the quarterback and give him the opportunity to throw and complete the pass he needs to, this offense is going to be humming and hawing all year. It'll be fantastic to watch.
Looking at the defensive side of the ball, this is a unit that performed pretty admirably last year. Top 20 in most statistics outside of defending the run. They were 75th in that area. In the portal, they lost 14 guys, 5 on the defensive line, 3 at linebacker. They also lost Sam McCall in the secondary, McCall and McClendon. Those are going to be the most notable guys. They only added 4, but all 4 of them will be impactful, alongside the return of 8 starters. They do lose their top tackler and safety, Jamie Robinson, but they return the next 6. They're ranked 10th in the conference, or in the college football, that is, with 40 sacks. They only had 8 interceptions and 8 fumbles, so we'd like to see some more turnovers there. Run defense had its tough moments, but it never seemed to hamper this team other than the Gators against Oklahoma and against Louisville, where they were just getting beaten up on the ground. The most passing yards they allowed all year was 243. They didn't give up many deep balls at all. It's all going to start with this defensive line, though. A good bit of turnover, but really for the better. Gilbert Edmond, he comes over 6'5", 250. Could just be a crucial depth piece at worst. I think Malcolm Ray and Joshua Farmer last year on the interior gained some good experience. Lions, he was good for them in 4 games. Darnell Jackson, a highly graded defender last year, really good tackler, nice run stopper. They lose Jarrett Jackson, but his replacement in Darnell Jackson, maybe even better, the exact same size as 6'6", 300. Fabian Lovett, he missed the early part of last year, came back and was really good in being a run gap clogger with some good strength. Really lacks the instincts and the production. Durability hasn't been great. But when he's on the field, he's certainly a guy that makes his impact felt. In the Braden Fiske, this was a highly sought-after transfer as well. 20 tackles for loss, 10 sacks the past 2 years at Western Michigan. One of the best defenders in college football. He was great against the run. He's been a proactive pass rusher. A guy who's 6'5", 300. He's a versatile player as well. Obviously, the uptick in competition is going to be something to monitor. And, Nick, I'm going to stop talking for a minute because I want you to talk about this defensive line because I haven't even talked about Patrick Payton and Jared Verse yet. They're absolutely loaded with depth, skill, and some productivity.
There's some serious talent here. When you look at those 2 guys, Payton and Verse, those are some really talented pieces. Jared Verse could have been a top 10 pick. He decided to come back to Florida State. 48 total tackles last year, 17 tackles for loss, 9 sacks for him. Incredible numbers, just a super talented piece. Patrick Payton as well, fantastic. 31 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 5 sacks for him. This 1-2 punch, the defensive line, the edge rushing is going to be fantastic. These guys are going to get after the quarterback. They're going to force the quarterback to make quick decisions. They're going to be in the backfield all season long. They're going to terrorize. Jared Verse is a fantastic piece. A lot of people wondered what his impact would be coming over from Albany, jumping up from the FCS level to Florida State, playing in ACC. and he hit the ground running last year and was one of the best transfer portal impact players last year. There's so much talent with Verse. I love what I can see out of him. I think Lovett's a fantastic player when he's healthy. Of course, if Lovett can stay healthy at 6'4", 315, he's a fantastic piece. Frisky as well, coming over from Western Michigan. There's so much talent there. Underrated player out of the portal, a lot of talent, great versatility, solid piece. I love the size at 6'5", 300. Darnell Jackson as well is a fantastic piece. I think he's got so much potential. This defensive line is ridiculous. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to sack the quarterback a lot. They're going to be great against the run as well. There's so much talent here on this defensive line. Jared Verse is a natural-born leader, one of the best edge rushers in college football. Certainly going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft in 2024. There's so much talent here. You can't hate this defensive line. They're fantastic. They're going to be great this year.
Yeah, when you talk about Jared Verse, the player has a great first step. He's good at shooting gaps, especially on slant runs with some quickness. Great athlete. Needs to improve his instincts a little bit, but he has a complete game record nonetheless. And Patrick Payton showcased some great reach and flexibility during his debut season with the Knowles, a raw prospect that can be elite with some added moves and some strength. So I think working with Verse this offseason is really going to pay dividends for him. Elite defensive line, one of the best in college football, if not number one. Like you said, Nick, this is going to be an unreal unit. Could not praise them enough. Tatum Bethune at linebacker, another one of those high talked about transfers from last year from UCF. This is an instinctive inside linebacker that quickly gets downhill, fills run lanes, does very well versus play action. Isn't the most athletic player or the most physical or rangy guy, but just a natural football player who gets after a 6'1", 225. I think another offseason under his belt will be interesting to see how that pays off. Kalen DeLoach showcasing some good toughness despite being a tad undersized at 6'1", 211. Great speed. That allows him to shoot gaps and compete in coverage. I think he's a good pass rusher for him. DJ Lundy, a player who's a hard hitter, whose snaps took a bit of a dive this past year, but, that's due to his lack of abilities in coverage, but he's certainly an asset in situations as well. You just talk about that great defensive line. The guys backing him up, Nick. I think depth might be tested at times here. But they have three great players I just mentioned that are all kind of versatile. They all do a different thing for this unit. Highly impactful players all around so far.
There certainly is some concerns at depth, but I think when you return these guys like Bethune and DeLuch, these are some solid pieces. Two of their top three returning tacklers there. Bethune, 84 total tackles overall, 9.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for him. DeLuch as well, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for him. 65 tackles overall, 7 pass breakups. He gets his hand up there and blocks the ball down. Very talented piece there. DJ Lundy as well, underrated. Nearly 50 tackles last year, 5 tackles for loss, plus 1.5 sacks. These guys are certainly talented. They can also get in the backfield. I think there's kind of, a lot of pressure put on this defensive line to get after the quarterback, but I think these linebackers have potential as well. I think this is a well-rounded front seven. The depth is certainly a little bit of concern, but overall, there's a lot of talent here to work with for this Florida State defense.
Yeah, look at the secondary, of course. Once more, Jamie Robinson does depart. There's plenty of players in this back end that are going to make an impact. You start with transfer Fentrell Cypress from Virginia, an elite coverage defender this past season, some good length. The pure athleticism and football IQ are certainly pluses for him. Bernardo Green, he proved to be an elite run defender, a great tackler who's not afraid to get his nose dirty, showcased plenty of physicality also to push wide receivers to the boundary, some good ball skills as well to knock that ball away, 6', 185. And I think Grady Vance, he's going to be a player who's going to once again occupy the nickel. He led the team with 3 picks last year at that position. Shaheem Battle, Akeem Dent, those guys are going to occupy an average safety group, I think, overall. So that's going to be something to monitor. The secondary last year that was really good, 56% opponent completion rating, only 165 yards per game. Of course, the 8 interceptions, I'd like to see that go up a little bit more. But this secondary, again, 243 was the most they allowed all year, and that was twice, to Louisville and to Oklahoma. What are your thoughts on the secondary and defense, top to bottom? Another A here for me. I think this is a great unit, has a lot of talent, some great work in the portal at all 3 spots over the past 2 years.
It's a fantastic defense top to bottom. I really like what this team can do. The secondary, it's not bad. Certainly not eye-jumping off the paper. It's not really catching your eye, but I think there's some talent here. Fentrell Cypress is a solid piece. I think Green's a good player as well. Greedy Vance, I like to see him step up this year. Played pretty well with the nickel last year, so I think there's some solid talent there. This defense is very good overall. There's so much talent top to bottom of this defense. I really like what they can do. I think they got a really good defense here that's going to be able to stop the run, get after the quarterback, and cause nightmares for some of these ACC offenses.
Now looking at the schedule preview and prediction, the offense features high upside for great balance with a deep backfield, a very talented wide receiver room. It has experience despite the lack of returning production. That's not going to be a concern one bit. The offensive line development will be crucial, though, Nick, mainly in pass protection. But some of the adds in the portals alleviate much concern because those guys have been really impactful in the pass blocking department. The defense didn't have the greatest numbers versus the run, but possessed one of the nation's best front sevens and defensive lines with plenty of production and experience and talent. Secondary fields 3 good corners. That safety group will have to prove itself following the departure of Jamie Robinson. This back end was terrific all year long last season. This is a legitimate national title contender that must fend off the noise amid some large expectations, Nick. I'm going to go with 11-1. I think the defense in Death Valley on September 24th will cause them some issues. That's going to be the only blunder on this schedule, though. I do think they start off the year in Orlando with a big win over LSU. Two potential playoff teams battling against each other there in that one. What are your thoughts? Do you have them going undefeated, or do you see them slipping up somewhere here on this schedule that really doesn't seem to be the toughest, but has a handful of interesting scenarios here?
I certainly think they can get in the playoff with one loss if it is to Clemson on the road. I think that's a playoff loss that the committee will like. I think that's a loss they look at and kind of give a mulligan for. I certainly think with the way college football is this year, I think they can get in as a one-loss ACC champion, considering they're going to play LSU if they have a good season at a neutral site. LSU is certainly a very talented team. They beat LSU last year, week 1, so there certainly is the chance that happens again. I love this team top to bottom. I think Mike Norvell has accelerated this rebuild. There were a lot of questions when he arrived in Tallahassee. He was the right man for the job. A lot of things were swirling on the offseason. The first season they were below 500, did not play very well at all. 3-6 during the COVID year. Then 5-7 in 2021. They lost out on Travis Hunter to Deion Sanders at Jackson State. There are a lot of questions about whether Norvell was the right man for the job, losing the #1 recruit like that. Kind of seemingly screwing that up at the last hour. But of course, there's a lot of NIL money involved in that. I think Mike Norvell has done a great job. Obviously, people like to play for the culture. He returned Jared Verse. Verse could have gone, been a first-round pick, certainly, but he returned, stays part of the culture. They're continuing to build something in Tallahassee. It wasn't that long ago this team was competitive, right? 10 years ago, they won a national championship, and they're certainly looking to be knocking on the door here. I think this team has all the potential in the world. They got to fend off that noise. Like you said, they got to stay focused, stay grounded in Tallahassee, but this team is fantastic. There's so much talent here. They can certainly run the table and be in the playoff.
That's going to be it for today's episode. As always, Nick, I appreciate joining me to break down the Noles. Very excited to see what this football team can accomplish this year. A lot of noise in Tallahassee. It's nice to see FSU, though, back at the top of college football. At least that's the expectation right here at this moment.
I agree. I think this is a team, like, college football is better when Florida State's good. I think this is an exciting year for this team. There's so much talent here, and they could really produce something special.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.